Hello and welcome everyone. We are at the top of the hour here, so we'll go ahead and kick things off. Happy for you to join us today on the webinar Getting Started with Microsoft Copilot. My name is Landon Basham, and I'm joined today with Katerina Mora. We are both business analytics consultants with SVA Consulting. And we work with AI adoption every day, from personal practical uses to staying up to date on all of the upgrades that things like Copilot undergoes on a regular basis. And we're happy to share some of that information and insights with you today. Before we fully dive in, just a few housekeeping logistical issues. So this will last up to an hour, and we'll save any questions towards the end of this call. But as you think of things, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll be able to refer back to those once we get to that portion of this call. This webinar is also being recorded, so whether you're able to stay the full hour or if you need to leave, you will be getting a link to this recording and a copy of the slides that you are seeing today as well. Now, if I could, oh, apologies, just a quick pulse check. I know some people are commenting in the chat here already. So let's go ahead and anybody else who's on the call with us today. Um, Let us know your familiarity with Copilot. Is this something that you maybe use on a regular basis? Have you seen it pop up in your Outlook emails, maybe in your Teams calls? Maybe you've never heard of this at all and you're joining us to learn a little bit about it today. All of the above are excellent places to be, as we hope to share more with you um, in today's call. But we just like to see where people are as they're joining us here today. So go ahead and drop a quick line in a chat if you would. Excellent. Thank you. So a little bit more just about us here at SVA. We are a business and technology consulting firm, and so we offer a variety of services to different organizations, just to support the development of using technology and data and improving business processes, right? You can see a number of our services here on the screen right now, from business evolution and applications. We're supporting change management within organizations and sort of digital transformations that you might be undergoing, to data analytics and looking at how we can support kind of informational decision making through visualizations and understanding more about your business data. We have a life sciences branch in supporting kind of the launch of life science products. And then you see AI enablement, and part of what we are here with you today and supporting that kind of acceleration and staying on top of uh, what AI is doing for businesses and helping you do your work better and more efficient. So for today's call specifically, we will look at kind of the foundations of Copilot, like what is Microsoft Copilot, where it exists in your different tools, and how to use it. We'll look at a specific interface called Copilot Chat and talk about all the different features within that and look at some use cases on how chat is useful for you and how you can use it professionally and possibly personally as well. We'll transition into what's known as agents and talk about the difference in Copilot Agents as compared to the Copilot Chat feature. And then kind of wrap up with building your own and looking at examples there on how you can create your own agent to support your personalized workflow and what would be helpful for streamlining what you do on a regular basis. So, kicking it off, I'll hand it over to Katerina now to talk a little bit about the underlying features of Copilot itself.
Thank you, Landon. So, what is exactly Microsoft Copilot? The easiest way to describe it in plain English is that it's your AI assistant across Microsoft 365. Nowadays, you probably have heard of a lot of different tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and it's kind of easy to get overwhelmed and trying to figure out what tool to use and which one is the best for my use cases. And the easiest way to think about them is to think about them like a toolbox. Each AI has its strengths depending on the job that you're trying to get done. And Copilot is designed specifically to work inside Microsoft 365. Here in this slide, I break it down to three things that make Copilot a little bit more different to the other tools. The very first one is that it works inside of your apps. This is not something that you have to learn as a new system. It's built in directly into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, and these are the apps that you already open every morning. There's no new software to install, no new logins, and you can just get a highly skilled assistant right at your desk. The second advantage is that you can talk to it naturally. There's a lot of AI tools out there that still require some coding, but with Copilot, there's no code to write or no special commands to memorize. You just can describe what you need to get done in plain English, the same way that you would ask a coworker. And you can ask it prompts like summarize this email, tell me what happened in this meeting. It's just as simple as that. The third advantage, and this is a major thing for a lot of organizations, is that it's secure by default. So I want to address this because this is always the first question that we get. With Copilot, your prompts in your company's data stays private. They are never used to train the AI model, and you have that enterprise grade protection baked in from day one. So, switching to the different ways that we can find Microsoft Copilot. So, there are different ways, and the ones that you use depends on what you're trying to do. The option one is the Microsoft 365 Copilot app. So, this can be accessed through the website or if you have your Copilot desktop app installed. And this is your go-to for open-ended work, is that chat interface where you can brainstorm, research, analyze files that you upload. This is more for general purposes AI uses. And this is where we'll spend the most of our time today in this webinar. Another option where we can find Copilot is inside Office apps. So when you open Word, Excel, PowerPoint, even Power BI, you'll see a Copilot icon. And this version knows the context of what you're currently working on. So for example, if you have a 50-page report open in Word, Copilot can read it and work with it directly. There's no need to copy and paste or explain additional context. The third option, and a lot of people don't know this, is that we also have a Copilot mobile app. So this is great for quick catch-ups on the go. So if you really need to check your calendar, you want to get a meeting recap before getting to your next meeting or dictate a prompt between calls, this is just a fast access to the tool. A quick note on licensing as well. Copilot Chat is included with Microsoft 365, but some of the advanced features, like maybe the full app in-app integration across all the different apps of Microsoft 365, require the Microsoft 365 Copilot Premium license. If you're not sure what you have access to, your IT team can help you confirm it. With the Microsoft Copilot Chat, that one is available to all the businesses that have a Microsoft 365 subscription with no additional cost. It's grounded in the web, but you can also use the plus icon, which we will see in a couple of slides, to upload different files and give that context. But with Microsoft 365 Copilot, with that add-on paid version that you can add, you can also integrate Copilot with different apps so you can access your business emails, meeting summaries, and find information on your OneDrive or SharePoint. So now let's talk about Copilot Chat more specifically. This is your free, secure AI chat for work included with your Microsoft 365 subscription. The simplest way, again, to think about it is like having a highly capable worker that you can message every time, and you also don't have to explain any context. This coworker already understands your work environment and can help you think, write, or analyze on demand. A couple of things that make Copilot very useful is that it works with your files. Again, you don't have to copy and paste that 50-page report or explain the dynamics, the context. It can gather all of that context from the different apps that you have in your Microsoft 365 account. Then on privacy as well, the answers stay private to you. Nobody else in your organization can see your conversations. The company data is protected. It stays with your Microsoft 365 environment. No training needed. No need to worry about any configurations, any coding of that sort. It's available on multiple devices, so you can always have it whenever you need it, whether that is in your desk or on the go and on your phone. And then it can do multiple things. A lot of people still treat Copilot just as a search engine. And in reality, it can even help you generate images, infographics, a lot of different artifacts. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see 5 different core task types: write, summarize, research, analyze, create. We're going to walk through all of this, but I also want to call out the pro tip at the bottom of the slide because it is the single most important piece of advice for getting good results. A lot of people complain, Copilot, it's a vague answer, it's not that great. Maybe I don't even get the output that I requested. And our advice with that is that you have to be specific. Whenever you ask a question, adding context like your role, your audience, the format really will help Copilot come with a way more crafted response and probably more accurate. If we write a professional, we just put in a prompt, like write a professional email, we'll get a fine answer. It won't be great because our prompt, what we put in the Copilot chat, is not great either. We would probably get a better answer if we were to have a prompt more complete, such as write a 3-paragraph email for me as the project manager to my VP summarizing Q1 progress. And with this, the same tool, we would get a lot of different results. So now let me walk you through the Copilot Chat interface so nothing feels unfamiliar when you open it for the first time. This is exactly what you see when you jump on the Microsoft Copilot web or the Copilot desktop app. As you can see at the first glance, it's clean and simple. It's meant for it to be an easy tool that you can work with. And in the next several slides, I'll point you to the different sections of the screen so you know exactly where everything lives. So starting at the top left, we have the new chat button. Every time that you want to start a new conversation with Copilot, you click this. You got to think of each chat as a separate conversation thread. One simple analogy to remember is a new chat is like a new email, new context. One important thing is that Copilot remembers everything within a single conversation. So you can build on what you've asked, refine the outputs, and ask those follow-up questions. But if you start a new chat, it starts completely fresh. It has no memory of the previous session. Next is search, which is pretty self-explanatory. If you've had previous conversations with Copilot and you want to find something that you maybe worked on last week, you can search it here. It searches across your past chat history. The library is where you find content that you've saved on purpose from your different Copilot conversations. So let's say, for example, Copilot produces something super useful, a draft or an image. I can save it on the library to reference later. Important, nothing goes in here automatically. You have to choose to save it. This is about building a habit that it's worth it to have because over time your library can become a curated collection of your different AI artifacts that you've built before. Moving on to the create option. This option is specifically for generating content from scratch, and it's a bit more structured than just like a regular Copilot chat. This is where the image generation capability lives, for example. And nowadays, it can even do more than that. It can create videos, infographics. The difference with the main chat is that this feature over here, it's oriented towards producing a specific type of output rather than just having a conversation. So most of your day-to-day work will happen in the main chat window, but when you have to create something, this is where you would go. Now there's also something that sets Copilot apart from like maybe if you have been using Copilot for a while, this is a feature that has improved a lot lately, but this is the agent section in the sidebar. You can see the researcher and analyst listed here, and there's also options to create a new agent and pull different agents. I won't talk a lot about this because we have a specific section that Landon is going to go over in a little bit. So I'm going to move on to notebooks. So notebooks are designed to keep deeper and longer form of work, like a specific project or a topic. You can think about a notebook as a dedicated workspace for a big initiative. So if you want to group all your chats into one place and kind of organize a little bit the UI or track everything into one place, this is where you would use a notebook. One thing that sets notebooks apart is that notebooks are designated to hold much more context. So if you have something big coming up, like a product launch, an audit, a specific plan, a specific strategic plan, a notebook is the right place to anchor all of your AI assisted work. Moving up to the top of the page, we have the work web toggle at the top of the chat window. This can look a little bit different depending on the license that you have, but when you have Copilot in work mode, Copilot will search your Microsoft 365 data. So your emails, your OneDrive, your SharePoint files, Teams conversation. It's pulling from your actual work content. So if you ask, what did we receive in last week's budget meeting? With work mode on, it will actually look through your meeting notes, emails, and documents to find an answer. That's what it'll ground the context. Then in the work mode, on the other hand, Copilot will search the internet. So we're talking about public information, current events. It's like a smarter, more conversational web search. Um, then we have the different modes that you can set Copilot. So that would be on the right side of the screen. So auto mode means that Copilot tries to determine on its own whether to search your work data or the web based on how you phrase your question. It's a default and it works well most of the times because sometimes I don't really want the prompt that I have. I don't only want to ground it in my company's data. I would also like to have some web and external world context. So this is the best setting to have it on. As you get more comfortable with Copilot, you'll start to notice when it's the right choice to have one or the other. And when it picks it wrong, you probably will get just like a generic response instead of like your company context or a narrow internal data response. The other button that we see on the right of the auto is this purple button that is to indicate if we want a temporary chat. Um, Not a super relevant button. We haven't really used it a lot. And then what I would say is the most important thing is the chatbot that we have right at the middle. So this is where you and ask your questions to Copilot. The instruction that you give to Copilot, it's called a prompt. This is the technical term. And the tools button and the plus icon next to it is where you can attach files to your conversation, and it's one of the most practical features. So, for example, if you have a PDF report, an Excel spreadsheet, or a Word document that you want Copilot to work with, you can click here to upload it or reference it. If you have that document already in your SharePoint, you don't need to attach it. You can just say like, oh, you can look over here or even mention the name of the document or not mention it at all and let Copilot find out. It will because it has that context of your company's data. But this would be the case where you would attach another document if it's a document that it's not included in your SharePoint or anywhere on the other Microsoft 365 apps. So now moving on to the next slide, we have a couple of the most common frustrations that people run with Copilot. If you tried before and feel overwhelmed, there's a good chance that one of these five things is exactly why. One of the challenges is the prompt being too generic. And this is because, for example, if you say, write me an email about the project update, Copilot actually doesn't have a lot to work with. It will produce something generic because you give it a generic input. Instead, you can try a more crafted prompt with including like the audience, the purpose, if you want a specific format. Um, Once you give it those different requirements, Copilot will take them into account and produce an answer that's more adapted to what you need. Second challenge is the answer being too long or too short. So again, going back to prompted, if you just say summarize this document, Copilot will decide the length. It might give you 10 paragraphs or it might give you two sentences. You leave it up to Copilot to decide. If you're more explicit, like summarize this exactly in 5 bullets or under 500 words, Copilot will follow your instructions and give you that answer back. Another challenge is the wrong format. Surprisingly, again, it's all depending on your prompt. So if you want a table, you have to say, I want a table. If you just say, compare these two vendors, you might get a paragraph. You might not get a table because you haven't really specified. Challenge four, hallucinations. So hallucinations can be another technical term that not a lot of people know, but this is the term for when AI makes something up, but sounds very confident. This happened, you know? We've all seen, and this happens. An LLM at the end of the day, it works based on predictions of data and doing math. So sometimes this will happen. And most of the times it happens because Copilot doesn't have the real data to draw on, and it fills the gap with like possible sounding guesses. So to fix it, ground it in your actual files. So give it the context it needs. Make sure that you specify the files if you really know, and don't leave that much margin for Copilot to make up and come up with answers. And challenge number five, the wrong tone. So this happens a lot with people who use Copilot to rewrite emails or creating emails to reply. If you just say review this message, Copilot has nothing to aim for, right? But if you say review it for a C-suite audience in a conference professional tone, you give Copilot everything it needs to adapt the vocabulary and the level of detail that it'll use to draw that email draft. And next, here's the mindset that I invite you to make. A lot of people still use Copilot to just search things online. It's like a secondary Google engine, you know, Googling templates, looking how to and finding best practices. Copilot is different. Copilot doesn't find the answer for you. It does the work. So instead of Googling best project update, email template, ask Copilot to actually draft your email right now from your notes. Instead of browsing Excel formulas online, you can ask Copilot in the Excel directly to do that formula for you, to give you those recommendations. It can even now generate graphs for you in Excel. Instead of copy pasting articles for a comparison, you can even ask Copilot to do that comparison table for you. The shift is like from finding information to getting work done. Once you internalize this, your productivity will start to compound. Then one general piece of advice we always give is just try it out. You know, don't be scared to ask Copilot to do a certain thing. Play around a little bit with the type of prompt that you put into it, and you'll find out that Copilot has actually way more potential than what we're using it for. And another thing that you probably noticed, especially when I was going over the different challenges that people face, is that a lot of it's based on prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is just the technique of asking better questions to chatbots like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini. It is actually a science because at the end of the day, like what Copilot is doing is that it has an algorithm that does predictions of data. So again, the more data that you give it and the more context and the fuller your prompts are, you'll get a better output. Better input, better output. So think of Copilot prompting as a stack. You know, at the bottom you have your organization's data. You can reference files. You can also use the attachment in the Copilot chat. Prompt strategies will help you guide that reasoning. So in that, using a good prompting recipe that includes like the persona, the tone, the style, the constraints, and then referencing the format so we don't have to go back and forth like Copilot, I wanted this, you know, in a table format. If you include that already in your original prompt, you won't have to have that much back and forth. So referencing the right content actually matters more than writing a complex prompt or a complex task to play with Copilot. So We have a lot of different actions and a lot of different like categories that Copilot can help you with. I'm not gonna go over because as you can see, there's a lot, but with writing and drafting, summarizing, research, analyzing data, brainstorming, creating images, rewrite, translate, there's a lot of potential in Copilot. And here are just like a couple of different prompts to give you some inspiration to try with Copilot Chat. And then what it really becomes very powerful is being able to use Copilot in Microsoft 365 apps. So each of these apps knows the specific document, the specific email or presentation that you're currently working on. For example, in Word, you can draft a full proposal, summarize reports, rewrite sections, translate content. PowerPoint, it has a lot of other features. I gotta say, I've tried recently the Excel feature that it has, and it's very powerful. So I don't have to go back to my formula sheet that I have on the side, and I can have my little assistant right there embedded into my Copilot Excel. And yeah, just next time that you're inside any of these apps and you feel stuck, look for the Copilot icon. It's gonna be right there, and it's your in context assistant for whatever you're working on right now. Now over to you, Landon, with the Copilot agents.
Thank you. Yeah, so we see a lot of abilities with Copilot Chat and how it's embedded in the various Microsoft tools and apps. And what we're going to transition to now is what is a Copilot agent and how that differs from what Katarina was describing. So this tool or this feature is something that moves kind of beyond the general chat feature into something more specialized. So agents are like assistants that are designed to do specific tasks, right? So if a chat is that generalist support, agent is something or someone, but something that is really good at a particular thing. And those agents are useful when you have a repeatable task that you find yourself doing. It's still going to answer questions based on your data, stuff that's connected to your organizational data. But maybe it can provide something more robust and feed off of more structured multi-step work. Um, Microsoft has its own pre-built agents. We'll highlight a couple of those for you today, researcher, analyst, and facilitator specifically. There are third-party agents as well that you can access through Copilot that other people have created. And lastly, like you can create your own that could be either publicly available or at least shared within your team as you see fit, and we'll highlight what that looks like today as well. So as far as like the built-in Copilot agents, again, each has its specific job that it is best at. So the first is researcher, and this is what is going to do kind of a deep dive into gathering information, and comparing things, summarizing findings. And it does like take a little bit of time. It is like actively doing research, whether in your work data or the web, and you can choose to combine those sources. Analyst, as you might suspect, this is the specialist that works with data and kind of helps transform complex information into something meaningful for you. Maybe add some visualizations to support those decisions that you're trying to come up with data. And last is facilitator. This one's slightly different than the previous in that it exists inside Microsoft Teams, where many of you may have meetings. And so this is something that supports taking notes or follow-up action items, really provides sound summaries so that nothing gets missed during Teams calls. So let's look specifically at these built-in agents, starting with researcher. Again, you can pull from the web or your own work documents or a combination of the two. And instead of just like lists of links that you might get through a generic web search. This is going to provide a clear, structured summary as a report, if you will. So an example that I played with researcher here is just kind of researching top competitors within a field and summarizing. Specifically, I looked at top data visualization tools because that's work that we do here at SVA, and so. I'm showing some of the actual responses that this agent provided. So is researching the top three data visualization competitors, summarizing their strengths. We start to see specific things that it is maybe requesting of me as a follow-up, but then also kind of the structured format that it is naturally creating and starting to compare those tools that I didn't specify, like it was doing the research to name Power BI, Tableau, um, and in ClickSense. And so like this is something that it was able to do as its abilities. It further, developed its response and started giving me more like bulleted paragraphs and summarized it as a table. And so I could see that clearly in the end. And something I think is important to note here is that it's also highlighting the sources where it's getting this information, right? So I can still go back and review those sources. I can click on those links to see where it's getting the information. But ultimately, like this agent is built to save time from actively researching something and compiling that information. So maybe it's doing like market research on something, or, in this case, like a competitive analysis, something that might require a lot of resources, that it can do the heavy lifting for you, and you can come back to it to review the output here. Again, you're still kind of wanting to review what it's sharing and validate those sources, but it's an excellent starting point for something of this stature. Then we can shift to the analyst agent. And as we said before, right, this is something that's focusing on data. And it is designed to kind of help explain what your business information might be showing. It may actually visualize the data as well. And you could specify that as you wish. But in this case, kept it fairly broad, where it's just like analyze the data here and show top trends by region. And so I uploaded a spreadsheet that I had of kind of synthetic data, and it's summarizing that spreadsheet. And we can see that the table, it's sharing how it's interpreting the information, so I can like kind of understand if I agree with the results that it's sharing with me, or maybe I can learn as it is sharing like what it did in the process. We can see those visualizations starting to produce as well, and we have our bar graphs of actually comparing the regional sales in this case. And it's gonna like highlight other visualizations also. And we've got like time series and looking at something like month to month, or kind of the clustered visual and then comparing like multiple things in one chart, right? So this again it is trying to remove a lot of the manual effort that it might take to analyze or even present data. And so you could use this agent if you're someone who does a lot of reporting or creates dashboards, for example, giving any sort of updates to senior leadership teams. This is a solid agent in that regard. Again, it's just like an interpretation of this tool from the data that you're presenting it. So make sure like you still are keeping yourself in the process to make sure it aligns with your personal goals and business context. And then that third one we referenced was facilitator. Again, this is inside Microsoft Teams. This is an agent, not necessarily from Copilot Chat where the others exist, but this you can find in those Teams meetings. And you could, if you are creating an invitation for a Teams meeting, you can actually like turn on this feature inside the invitation, and that's highlighted in the green box in the middle of the screen for you. Or if a call has already started, there are settings at the top that you can drop down, and that's the blue box in the top right of the screen, and turn on facilitator from that. I will say that it's generally helpful to record and turn on transcription for meetings because facilitator is going to be um, relaying that text for its summaries and for its notes for you. Obviously, recording is just beneficial, so you can go back to review it as well as you're looking at the summary notes that facilitator is creating. An important note here, just logistically for facilitator. It's only for like scheduled meetings. It's not functional in an impromptu call. So that's why I want to highlight like if you are actually creating a meeting in your calendar or if there's a scheduled call that you are the admin for, you can turn it on. But if you're just like doing a quick call with a colleague, facilitator is not going to be functional for that. But what it can do in those settings is look at an agenda that you've created, or maybe even like summarize something from documents and files that you've uploaded to help you stay on track for your meeting. It will kind of chime in as a chat bot to say like, okay, the meeting has started. We're halfway through. We've covered, these pieces. Don't forget about this. You only have 10 minutes left. Things like that. Kind of a minute tracker for you. Um, you can see like speaker notes and or at least like the timestamps of when certain people are talking about different elements and refer back to that if you need to at a later point. It's also really good at the summarizing part. So this we can see a meeting has been recorded and I can go back and scroll through different timestamps if I'm looking for something. But I see the specific notes that facilitator has taken and has summarized and even provided as next steps. That's something that's powerful here where if you don't want to, if you're not able to rewatch the entire video, it's pulling out key notes that people have discussed and named like what those actionable next steps are. So this is another powerful agent, again, embedded inside Microsoft Teams. Beyond those pre-built agents, we said there are others that you may have access to, and you can see a number on the screen here. They may be created by Microsoft, they may be by third-party members as well. Um, the name of the game here is kind of exploration and in seeing what might suit you and your business needs. But this is an agent store where you can just see what is available. So you don't necessarily have to build something from scratch. You can see if it already exists and meets your needs. Okay. And if it doesn't, then comes in the power of being able to create one yourself. So it's kind of the general steps of being able to create one, and I'll walk through what that looks like within Copilot as well. But you're essentially just like it's a user-friendly interface of giving your agent a name, a description, giving it some sources to pull from, and then for you to explore it and make sure that it's working properly. And so an example that we're going to see here today is this RFP proposal generator. And so I'm gonna walk through those steps, but it's gonna use like templates and past proposals to create like high quality drafts here. And again, the benefit of an agent is for something that you do on a regular or repeated basis. It's something that you're going to design and set up instructions from the beginning so that when you come back to it, it's going to know what to do without you having to restructure the instructions over and over again. Okay. And I will say, like, you don't have to build agents to successfully use Copilot, but this is an added bonus for those that see the benefit here. So what you're seeing here again is kind of the landing page of Copilot Chat. You can access agents on the left-hand side panel there and click the Create Agent to start this process. You would then configure this, and we see that labeled number 2 at the top, and you would see the specific features that are in front of you. And so this is just like a lightweight, like no code necessary, just a builder experience that you're able to type in natural language when you understand like what it is that you're hoping this agent will help you with. You can give it an icon if you want to like personalize it in that way, but you're giving it a general description, right? Saying of like what its purpose is, and then you start going into the instructions that you want this agent to do. Katerina had like referenced this earlier in the benefit of being successful with Copilot. And I'm going to reiterate it now with agents is that the best way is to be specific in your instructions, give it context of what you're working on, maybe even give it a clear role or what you might refer to as a persona and how you want it to behave. Um, and just like structuring things as detailed as possible. Um, Here you can see that it starts with like a purpose, and then I give it some guidelines of things that I want it to do or not to do as it's presenting information. Um, I kind of like scroll down in that stage and you can see that it goes into like skills, or these are just kind of the tasks or steps that I'm asking it to do when it interacts with a user. This has 8 in total. We see 2 on the screen right now. That level of detail is up to you and what your goal is for your specific agent. But again, you want to be precise and detailed so that it performs the task as well as possible without having to refine it anytime you use it. Now, that may seem tedious up front, but the point is that that return, that ROI is compounded over time because you don't have to communicate your needs with it over and over again. If this is a task that you are doing on a regular basis, this will prove it's worth every time that you use it. You're then also like, beyond the instructions, you're giving it some specific information, what we call like knowledge, kind of the agent's knowledge base. So that could be specific information from Teams calls or SharePoint files. It can sort through your emails to look at specific threads that might be useful for this agent. You can ask it to use websites as well, right? It doesn't have to just be your organizational information. But it's beneficial if you have specific files likely that you can upload. You can see that they exist in there, and it's going to refer to those as it's conducting its task, its job. It can create images and things of that nature as well. Um, and then you have these like sample prompts. So like if you're a new user to this agent, if you were to share it with your team, for example, you could create your own prompts on how to get that person started with it. And it would know how to engage with the user at that point. So these just provide like an example space of how to use your particular agent. And then from there, number 7 in the top right is like share it, publish it, right? Have it where it's actually usable. And it may just be useful for you, and that's perfectly fine. Maybe it's a task that your team is used to doing either collaboratively or at least like doing the same tasks. You can share it with your teammates to explore it, to maybe like test it out, pressure test it, make sure that it's working properly. But the ultimate goal here is to kind of alleviate, the amount of work that this task might take because you do it over and over, and free up time to do other important work as well. So you have the agent has been published. Now you can use it. And here are just some like sample responses for it. Now, mind you, this these responses are specific to the instructions that it was given, right? It's not going to be the same for every agent that you have. Um, I just used one of those sample prompts that was created that was like generate a first draft of this RFP. So I was like, all right, yeah, it gives me a nice like friendly tone in responding to me. I was like, can you please like upload a document so that I can reply to that? It's like, okay, no problem. Um, it's like, can you explain like what next steps like you're gonna need for me? It's like, sure. Here are like steps, 1 through 10. And again, that's because those are the instructions that it was designed upon. Um, that's it's going through piece by piece because that's how it was built to do. So it goes through that. I just want to like share this just to let you know like it's not just quickly or randomly sharing some information. It's taking time to kind of to sift through its knowledge base here, and not going to give you a light answer here. And as it's like thinking, then it's going to share as much as it is able to. So I uploaded the draft. It then follows its instructions that it was given to tell me what the next step is. Tells me like, the information that it's pulling from, and giving me section headings, etc., etc. Right. And so we can see like all of the ways that it is responding again based on how it was originally designed. Um, it's not always gonna like ask you follow-up questions, maybe as this one is doing. It's relying on those original guidelines. But in this case, it's like, just confirm if what you've seen is accurate or what you're looking for. Do you need to upload some other source? Things of that nature. So again, the benefit here is you might be doing a lot of work up front to tell it how to respond as precisely and as thoroughly as possible, so that anytime you come back and click on this agent in your sidebar, it knows to follow those exact same steps. And so then you're just uploading your next RFP draft in this case, and it knows precisely like what to do. Or maybe you send a couple of files, so it's not as much back and forth, but you get the idea the more you use it, right? So kind of like with that, we encourage you to try it, right? And so maybe it is just starting with the simple like chat and opening the browser to Copilot Chat and test out some different prompts. Like try to connect to some of your organizational data, see how it's responding. Go to the agents, look at the store, or try, Analyst if you're someone who works heavy in Excel, um, or dig into like building your own. Maybe you have an idea already. If not, some common ones that come up are just like a sales pitch assistant, and you're giving it some details there, or maybe you're in HR and need some support writing job descriptions, and so you're thinking about how that connects to your business context and giving some examples of job descriptions, and then having it help you create new ones. Or you're in marketing and it's helping you with content creation, or you have to write a lot of statements of work and all these different ideas. And I think like the more you use agents, then uh, the more likely it is that you come up with other use cases that would be helpful for you. So, yeah, have fun with it and experiment, but like try to see like what is most helpful for you in your daily workflow. And with that, I'm going to ask Katarina to come back in and talk to us a little bit about AI enablement.
Thank you. So everything that you saw today, whether it's using Copilot Chat more effectively, working with agents, or even building your own, those are all great starting points. Where we are really seeing organizations get value is when these become parts of how work actually gets done day to day. And this is where we are actually trying to spend our time. So a lot of teams are struggling with like what Copilot can do. They're trying to figure out things like where do we start? What's the highest value use cases for our business? How do we get people comfortable using this in their day-to-day work? how do we start in a way that it's secure and aligning how we operate. And this is a little bit of what we do in our AI enablement practice. We help teams identify high impact opportunities like saving time in reporting, improving how information flows, just helping them think about a couple of AI high impact areas. Then we help with adoption because tools like this, for example, Copilot, only work if people actually use them and know how to use them. We offer Copilot enablement trainings for organizations as well as ChatGPT, Claude, in other AI chatbot tools. And this is very helpful because what people really need in the organization is simple guidance, real examples, and a way to make it relevant to their role. So over time, it becomes more a tool that is embedded into the workflows and something that makes their life easier in day to day. So if you're leaving this thinking, this is useful, but I'm not totally sure of how to roll this out at scale, that's exactly the type of conversation that we like to have. So just to make that a little bit more concrete, I know that there's a huge rush right now on like trying to implement AI and not knowing where, trying with a lot of different tools and people using like different tools in silos. So this is how we typically see that journey, the AI journey play over time. More organizations start at the very bottom, which is like interest, curiosity, maybe some early experimentation. People try tools like Copilot. Maybe your organization rolls out Copilot, but it is still pretty individual and not consistent. Some people like haven't even used their license yet. So the first real step is building that foundation, getting guidance on where this actually fits in your business and helping people get comfortable using these tools in a simple, practical way. And from there, it starts to shift into adoption. So this is when you move beyond like a few individuals using it to teams using it in more of a consistent way. And you can even like share agents across your organization, prompt patterns. All of this guidance will start to make a big difference right there. Then you get into enablement and integration where AI becomes part of workflows. Maybe it's embedded in how reports are created, meetings, how meetings are summarized, or how you analyze your data. It's less about experimenting with AI and more about standard ways of working and embedding it directly into your workflows. And over time, that's where you start to see more advanced use cases. So automation, decision support, and even custom solutions that are totally custom to your business and with direct link to your data. So the key thing that we want to emphasize here with this pyramid is that you don't have to jump to the top overnight. The organizations seeing the most success are the ones that are taking this step by step, starting simple, providing value, teaching the people how to use the tools, and then building on that. So wherever you are on this spectrum, the goal isn't to do everything, is to take the best next practical step that actually moves the business forward. Happy to talk through where you are, what you're seeing, and what might make sense as the next step. So now we'll move on to questions. Again, if you're thinking about how to move from like this is interesting to I actually like want to make a difference, we're always happy to have that conversation. We have the link to our website over here, and in a second I'll put the link in the chat as well. But Landon, let's see what questions we have in the chat. So I see one that's about how you access the agent store.
Yeah, so I don't, yeah, I was gonna say, it was gonna do that on me. Um, so I believe we are referring to the specific place where you might have like third party um, agents. I won't have like the live Copilot interface pulled up for us today, but um, but you should be able to access it on the left side panel there. There should be a prompt for that. If not, I can even try to reach out and see who is specifically asking that question. I can follow up directly. But it should be accessible there. It's not. it's not like an external thing that you have to go into. It's within Copilot Chat. You just it's linked over there with the other agents.
Yeah, in the Copilot chat interface on the left side of the screen, there's a section where it says all agents and it's like a three dots icon. That's where you click and it'll take you to the agent store. And you'll see like the different ones. There's a couple of them built like by Microsoft. And then there's the third party ones over there as well.
So, thank you. Another question was just about pulling information from outside your network. And um, Katerina, if you want to like speak to some of this, I know like some of it's like mentioned and it can be like questionable with Copilot Chat, but I think it has like both features, right? Like
Yes.
it's yeah.
Yes, going back to the UI walkthrough that I did earlier, on the top, there's like the web and the web toggle, which you can
Mm,
enable it when you really want a web-based answer. If you there's another option where like your IT administrator or whoever's your administrator of your Copilot can enable this feature to be turned on. So it can happen that an organization doesn't really want to give people access to the web, so they can turn that off. But you should be able to toggle with the web toggle on toggle with the web toggle on the
mm,
very top of the screen. And Copilot 2, if you have the web enabled, like Copilot is able to tell with the type of question that you're asking if it has to look into internal data or external data out into the web.
mm,
Regardless of where it looks, your data still gets protected within the Microsoft 365 app. It's the same type of like protection features that your Microsoft 365 apps include, Outlook, Teams, all of those.
mm.
So your data stays private and it's not shared with like Google if you do a Google search, for example.
Yeah, great. There's sort of a follow-up question or a related question as far as like where things are saved, like when you're
Yeah.
working with chat or possibly with other features too. But I can at least like start by saying that when you're doing a new chat or anything that's communicated that way if you're uploading files for a new chat. Your conversations are stored on the left side panel also. And so like you can refer back to those in the future. As Katerina mentioned, like anytime you start a new chat, it's like a new email. It's it's starting fresh. It's not remembering some of that previous information. So maybe you do want to refer back to something, and those conversations at least are saved on the left hand side, and they're either called conversations or they're called chats, depending on if you're using like a desktop app version of this or a web version of this. But your previous conversations are saved over there, and the files that may be attached to that specific conversation are just within that one conversation. So that's at least a useful way to pull back something that you've communicated before with Copilot.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more onto that, there's the library feature that I
Mhm.
covered during the walkthrough. With that, what they've changed this recently, but what
Mhm.
usually happens is that you have your chat conversation, and at the very end of the chat, there's going to be an option that's going to be something around edit in pages or see in
Mhm.
pages. Pages is that section where you can like store the chat into library. So then if you click that, and even if you click edit and you don't really edit anything, once you go back to the library section, you'll see pages and that specific conversation. With images, it works a little bit different since you're creating like a specific artifact. It's not a conversation. Those automatically get saved to your library or even in your create section. There's a section that's something around images I've created where you can access those images created in previous chats.
Mhm. Great. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you everybody for the questions and for your engagement today. We have come up to our hour time here. So be on the lookout for a follow-up recording of this call, as well as the slide deck for your review. Reach out to us if you have any Copilot or AI questions. And thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.